Is it just me, or are games getting better and better? 2017 was a good year for video games, but 2018 even managed to surpass that. So here it is, my top 10 favorite games of 2018. Keep in mind that this is 100% opinion-based. These are only the games I have played, and it's based on the amount of joy they gave me, not necessarily on their popularity. Let's not waste any more time and start the list. Number 10. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle Donkey Kong Adventure. An impressively big single-player DLC campaign that adds all kinds of cool new features to make it stand out compared to the original, while still keeping the essence of what makes the original game so good. It feels more like a mini-sequel than just a release with some extra levels, which is what a single-player DLC should do in my opinion. Even though you only have 3 characters, they each play completely different from one another, making sure you tactically pick the best one for their abilities. Donkey Kong is a more fun leader character than Mario. Mario is a fun and balanced character, but he's pretty generic. There isn't a real reason to prefer having him on your team, other than you being forced to always have him on. Donkey Kong, on the other hand, has some insane strengths like being able to climb walls or throw enemies. He quickly became an important character I didn't want to lose. Throughout the campaign, there are funny cutscenes, cool new bosses, fun new goals, great added levels, and new music based on the Donkey Kong franchise. One of the better single-player DLCs I've played, and definitely worth to buy if you like the original game. Number 9. Dragon Ball FighterZ. When this game was announced, I couldn't care less. How many Dragon Ball fighting games do we already have? And I usually don't enjoy 2D fighting games, so why would this be any different? Well, FighterZ proved me dead wrong, because not only is this great fun for anyone who grew up watching the show, but it's also a fun, balanced, and competitive fighting game in its own right. It's one of the most accessible 2D fighting games I've ever played, with very easy special moves rather than the difficult button combination games like Street Fighter. The auto combo system gives beginners a good tool to start with, and it discourages techniques like constantly jumping or spamming projectiles. Mastering combos can be addictingly fun, and the game encourages you to think of your own combos rather than copying the best combo tutorial. It ignores the power levels established in the anime and make every character work somehow for their own reasons. Sure, in terms of logic, this doesn't make any sense, and it's pretty funny seeing the strongest character being beaten with some of the lesser fighters, but this does easily make FighterZ one of the most balanced Dragon Ball games I've ever seen. The only real downsides I have is that the single-player campaign is very bare-boned. Like they thought, oh crap, the single-player campaign, rather than they put a lot of time into developing it. And a large part of the characters do play rather similar. There are a couple of basic combos that work for the majority of the cast. FighterZ doesn't quite offer the most variety when it comes down to movesets in fighting games in that regard. But the upsides in this system is that each character has enough unique moves to make them stand out from others, and it does make practicing a new character easier to do, and I'm eager to see what characters would show up next. Number 8. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The Tomb Raider reboot series don't carry the same strength all the way through the series compared to the first game. Back then, it was all new and exciting. For the third in the series, you get what you expect, without many new things to make it a unique new experience. But that aside, it's still a solid gaming experience that's a lot of fun. The graphics are really good, jaw-droppingly good on numerous occasions. The stealth sections and combat are solid. Bombastic action moments are absolutely spectacular, controls are butter smooth, platforming and exploring is fun, and puzzles are rewarding. From the moment this game was released, I found myself playing it every day just because the joy it brought me. The story, on the other hand, is unfortunately easily forgettable. There's way too much walking and talking while there's little actual action, which wasn't a change I was fond of. It wasn't the 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 game I was hoping it would be, but it's still a good experience to close off the reboot trilogy. Number 7. Moss. While the library of good VR games isn't big, one that stands out is Moss, a charming fantasy-themed platform game. Moss is a feast for the eyes and ears in VR, but it also has solid gameplay that makes clever use of the VR and motion controls. You control both the mouse as well as that you are a character yourself, standing next to the mouse as he travels through the world. With the controller, you can interact with objects in the world by either rotating them, moving them, or withhold enemies from attacking the mouse. This creates one of the most immersive gaming experience I've had in 2018, and it truly feels like I've been on a little journey. The only downsides are that the fighting system is too repetitive and simple, as well as the story stops rather abruptly. I was under the assumption I reached the third act of the story, only to find the credits started to roll. Kind of a bummer, but if a sequel makes it to see the light of day, I'm definitely going to pre-order it. Number 6. Celeste. Celeste seems to get more attention than indie games usually do. After playing it, I can say it's for a good reason. It's one of the most challenging but rewarding platform games I've played in a while. The controls are simple yet solid as hell, and it's all the creative obstacles that make it so challenging. The levels consist of short platform challenges that are very difficult at first glance, but due to the infinite lives you have and the fact that you reach a checkpoint after every screen, it's still rewarding and fun to play. I always felt encouraged to do just one more screen before I stopped playing, often resulting in playing way longer than I originally intended. The level designs are stunning, making use of color so beautifully that they make traveling through the game an absolute pleasure. Even the story has a surprising amount of depth to it. A game like this doesn't need a story, yet they manage to write very likable characters whose dialogues are fun to read. The story tackles the subject of depression, but in such a subtle way that doesn't put the focus on the somberness of depression. Instead, you could miss the entire depression metaphor and still enjoy the story as some kind of road trip about a girl who overcomes all kinds of obstacles and meets new friends along the way. For as much as I like a challenge, even I couldn't handle the relentlessly difficult extra levels. But they are totally optional, while the levels you need to do in order to progress are much more doable. A game I greatly enjoy, and it's definitely deserving of the hype. Number 5. God of War. The winner of multiple game awards, including the best game of 2018, a reputation I can get behind. While I enjoy the original God of War games, they're too much of the same. Beating the similar enemies with the same combos, having similar boss battles, and having forgettable storylines in most of the games just got monotonous after a while. This new version is exactly the kick the franchise needed. We got a totally changed combat system that works great for its own reasons, Norse mythology instead of Greek, and a surprisingly engaging storyline. This is a changed Kratos. No more the ruthless mass murderer who wants war, but a retired man who just wants some peace and quiet with his wife and young son and forget about his past. Instead of revenge or war, the story is about how his wife passed away and how he and his son go on a journey to spread her ashes atop a high mountain. Through this journey, you start to bond with his son, and both characters grow in a natural way as the story continues. Kratos still has his harshness you'd expect from him, not even referring to his son by his name or as his son, but you do understand that he genuinely cares for him and just wants his son to not make the same mistakes as he did.
You're nothing to me!
Boy,
Nothing!
look at me! Look at me, boy! Boy, look at me.
We did it.
You are not ready.
There are emotional moments, funny ones, or just some fun backstories of Norse mythology. The boss battles are absolutely amazing, with one of the best opening bosses I've ever seen in a game, period. The graphics are also absolutely amazing. I mean, have you seen the multiple stunning lands to discover? It truly makes you feel like you're on a journey. The only real problem I have is that the game has a bit too much backtracking for my taste. The slow pacing works when you're exploring new areas, but anytime you need to go back or do extra stuff, it felt a tad repetitive. Besides that, this game gets 2 big thumbs up, and I can't wait to see more of this God of War in the future. Number 4. Astrobot Rescue Mission. Astrobot is one of the most unique games I've played in a while. Playing virtual reality for the first time is amazing on its own, but this game seems to have gone the extra mile and make full use of the possibilities of VR and motion controls in the most user-friendly and immersive way possible. It's a third-person platform game where you need to reach the end of the level. You can jump and float a bit with a double jump and attack. Sounds basic, but it's all the things the developers have done with these elements that make Astrobot a memorable experience. Not just is this game as responsive as a platform game can be, but each level offers something new. Whether it's a new obstacle, new enemies, new gadgets you can use, or something else to make the level stand out, literally every single level is fun to play. There wasn't even one moment where I was forced to do something repetitive or boring. A fine example of quality above quantity. It truly feels like you are a part of this world and the characters are glad you're there to help them out. If you own a PlayStation VR, I can't recommend this game enough. Number 3. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. I'm cheating a bit here. Technically, this game is from 2017, but I didn't hear about it until 2018. But this game offers such a strong experience, I simply couldn't ignore it. Hellblade is one of the most impactful games I've played in the past few years. How it tells its story, its cinematography, its main character, its imagery, the atmosphere, it's all so creative, I was stunned. There isn't a single game that even compares to the way how Hellblade tells its story. Similar to Celeste, the game deals with the theme of depression. Unlike Celeste, depression is prominently portrayed. The entire game is built around experiencing what the main character is feeling. Hopeless, weak, disoriented, paranoid, hallucinating, and the sensation of derealization.
Within, you will see the face of the darkness that you fear. And if you focus, like I have taught you to, you will also see that as much as the darkness has you trapped within its veil, it too is trapped within yours.
The game even goes as far as to highly recommend using headphones, just so you can hear voices in your head constantly reacting to your actions, but they pretty much always criticize you. It was almost tiring to constantly hear voices in your head, constantly feeling like your goal was just out of reach, but that is exactly the point. This is what the main character goes through. You truly experience how she sees the world. The game straight up starts by telling you that you can't lose too many times, or otherwise she can't take the darkness anymore. Even though the difficulty is not high, knowing this was a possible punishment, it made me anxious not to make mistakes. The music is stunning and perfectly fits the theme as well. Combat is simple, but responsive and fun to do. It truly felt like all of my attacks had a huge impact on the opponent, and each attack of the opponent greatly impacted the main character, making the sword fighting feel more realistic than other sword fighting games I've played. The plot sounds so basic at first. Someone she loves has passed away, and she goes to the realm of the dead to save him. It sounds like a simple save the princess story, but I can safely say this is the strongest execution of this cliché I have ever seen. The game does such an outstanding job at making you feel empathy for the woman and showing the positive influence the man she wants to save had on her cruel life. I can't think of any other save the princess story where I genuinely wanted the main character to succeed this bad. When I think of all the things this game does right, I want to give it a 10 out of 10 and consider placing it on number 1. It is that masterfully well crafted. But there's one downside to this game that unfortunately takes a big chunk out of the marvelous gaming experience. At least a third of this game consists of looking for shapes in the environment. I read the creators did this because having the urge to look for shapes in your surroundings that have no significant value is part of the mental disorder the main character suffers from. I guess that makes sense, but it doesn't create engaging gameplay. Usually you just walk in circles until you finally find the shape that the game wants you to find. Since they show up frequent and take up quite some time, it was much more dominant than I would have liked. This negatively influenced the overall experience of Hellblade. But the things it does right are so damn good, I still consider it a masterpiece and one of my personal favorite games to be released in the past few years. And I'm only at number 3 on this list. Can you imagine?
Get up. Get up and fight.
Number 2. Detroit: Become Human. I always had a soft spot for Quantic Dream or interactive drama games in general, despite reviews being all over the place, varying between finding the game weak, pretty good, and really good. I think Detroit: Become Human is the best interactive drama game yet, and I don't even hesitate calling it a true masterpiece. Its engaging characters, its themes about humanity, what it means to be human, or what you can consider to be alive in general, all of it was amazing.
They were going to replace you, and you became upset. That's what happened, right? I thought I was part of the family. I thought I mattered. but I was just their toy. Something to throw away when you're done with it.
You can see it as a metaphor for slavery or a metaphor for how Jews were treated during World War II. You can see it as an interesting what-if science fiction story. You could watch it out of interest in technology, or just watch it as a character-driven story where different characters make a journey and maybe they'll cross paths. For as much as I love Heavy Rain or Life is Strange, these themes simply have more depth to them. Playing this game was like binge-watching a great TV show, except this time you have notable influence on how the story progresses. Of all the interactive drama games, Detroit Become Human easily has the most alternative path one can take. At the end of each level, you get a flowchart that shows you just how many choices you had in a level. Sometimes entire levels are missed because of decisions you made earlier in the game. Some characters can actually die rather early in the plot, so keeping everyone alive and happy felt extra rewarding, knowing I prevented a worse outcome. With stunning graphics, strong music, great acting, Detroit Become Human isn't just the best interactive drama game I've played, but also one of the best games I've played in the past few years in general. It actually deserves its own review, if I ever were to take the time to make one. But for now, it definitely deserves the number 2 spot on this list. And my favorite game of 2018 is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. If you know me at all, you know I'm quite the die-hard Super Smash fanboy. Placing Ultimate at number 1 is almost inevitable. Ever since Smash 4 was released, I've been playing it weekly until the day before Ultimate was released. Waiting for this game was just torture, with the hype getting bigger and bigger with every new reveal. Now that it's here, I can say that it has lived up to the insane hype. It's the best of Smash Bros. All characters and most stages return, but they've been balanced greatly. The fighting feels similar to previous installments, but it has its own tweaks to make it stand out. The graphics are updated, creating some beautiful looking stages. It's like Ultimate took every piece of criticism previous Smash games received and they removed all of them to create the ultimate Smash experience. While its single player is not the most remarkable, that's not why you play Smash. Smash you play for the multiplayer experience. I also started to play Smash competitively a couple of months ago, and with Ultimate being released, my enthusiasm to join tourneys is bigger than ever. Big compliments to the online mode this time. Finally, I can get opponents around the skill level of the character I pick. Now I can properly practice with characters I'm usually not good with, or put my best characters to the test to get even better, instead of praying for a proper opponent. I've already spent tons of hours enjoying Smash Ultimate with friends, meeting up weekly for Smash Night, and I'm sure there will be tons of hours more to come. Smash Ultimate, my personal favorite game of 2018. So what were your favorite games in 2018? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.